This isn't therapy, it's a reckoning for the men who've been lied to about love and the women who've been sold safety instead of truth. This is where we say the things you're not supposed to say out loud. And on record, I am author and this is Cuffed. Intellectual honesty is the part of trust most people skip. Not because they're dishonest, because looking yourself clearly is the hardest thing you'll ever do consistently. You can be honest with other people and still be lying to yourself. You can be reliable, show up, follow through, do what you said, and still be building on a foundation you haven't examined. That's the part of trust that doesn't get talked about enough. The structure only holds if the pieces are actually connected. Honesty that doesn't start inside isn't honesty. Reliability that isn't grounded in truth is just mechanics. Today we go into both. Musing 92 is intellectual honesty. Musing 93 is reliability. Specifically, what it costs to be reliable when the price is real. Let's get into it. Starting off with Musing 92 deals squarely with intellectual honesty. And I really believe that when people talk about trust in general, not enough attention is paid to intellectual honesty. And it's unfortunate because I think a lot of times for myself, previously I would go through situations and afterwards when I would autopsy what happened, my behavior, whatever, I would soften it. I would tell myself, it wasn't that bad. Maybe she was just upset in the moment and she'll come around. And that's honestly the most dangerous type of lying there is, because at the end of the day, the most important relationship in the world is the relationship with yourself. And if you can't be honest with yourself, the entire structure of trust collapses. Let's take a step back and look at this in the real world, because I have a painful example of this, and we can walk through the consequences in real time. So we're going to autopsy this scenario in real time. And most of you will be familiar with the story if you've been listening to the prior podcasts and reading the musings on cuffmedia.com. And it goes back to where things went very sideways with the fucking love of my life, Tabitha. So, as I've talked about, when we had a rough weekend together, I thought that giving or providing myself space would be the right move. Now, this didn't it didn't start off in a place of me trying to hurt her or me trying to be an avoidant. What started it was confusion. And I knew myself well enough at the time to understand that when I get confused, I would get rattled and I could lash out. I've been working on that tremendously. And where the intellectual honesty started to break down was telling myself that she wouldn't understand all of the things going on in my life and the other pressure that was adding. And where the intellectual honesty really broke down is the thing about people like Tabitha and I is we are loyal to a fault. But if you burn that bridge with us, it's over. And where I really fucked up is I was telling myself, our connection is so strong. We have so many similarities. Like, we would love to take afternoon naps, and we have the same sense of humor. Just, I relied upon that in lying to myself. And where I really, really fucked up is I told myself, you've done so many small things that she would be silly to not look at the whole picture and not just look at this one instance. So I used it to lie to myself for why I deserved this space. But what I didn't realize at the time, that I now see so clearly, is by lying to myself and justifying it, I allowed myself to walk away or space or create distance at a time when it was most crucial that I showed up and that I was present, that I showed her that no matter what, I was there. I was hers. I wasn't going anywhere. And I didn't fucking do that. It kills me now. Fucking kills me. I'm like, now I look back, I'm like, you stupid motherfucker. How fucking stupid was I? I don't even know where to go from there. And to be honest with everyone listening right now, I haven't even ever said this out loud before, which has its own set of feelings with it. And that right there is the danger of not being intellectually honest. Looking back, I wish I would have just said all of this. Told her, hey, there's all this stuff going on. I'm scared you're gonna leave. I'm scared of this. I'm sad. I'm upset. But instead of letting her in, I put an extra set of layer on, and I also did it at a distance, which should tell you just how scared I was. But instead of just opening up and letting her in, I did all of that bullshit. That was my choice, and I thought that was the better choice. That's how stupid I was at the time. That all of that nonsense was somehow the better choice than to opening up and being honest with a woman who had proven time and time again that she wasn't gonna run. But I couldn't see it. That's how blind and how stupidly scared I was. But I'm proud of myself because I'm saying it now. I'm seeing it, and it's interesting because when we walk through this story and I talk about that situation, it's almost like I feel like I'm talking about a different person now, which I think is a very good thing, which I know is a very good thing. So, with that said, this is a perfect segue to move into reliability. And I hope that by walking through that situation and that whole story, you can see how intellectual honesty dovetails so nicely into reliability and into the larger picture of trust as a structure. In the musings, we've referred to trust as these made up of these different components that are all these load-bearing walls. And my hope is not only for you, but for myself, that I'm seeing it so much clearer as we work through all this together, is just how important all of these are to each other. Look at what we just did. We just autopsied a disastrous sequence of behaviors on my part. And I think, especially for me, I could see so clearly how the breakdown of intellectual honesty collapsed my ability to be reliable by lying to myself. I didn't show up in the moment that cost me something. That was hard for me to show up. I couldn't be reliable to her. And I don't want to speak for her, but I'm just put it this way. I regret every day not showing up. I do. There's no other way around it. And I think the one great thing that parenting, especially over the last couple of years, now that my children are all teenagers, is it really teaches you reliability. Because there are a lot of times as a parent, and I hope all parents are nodding along to this part, where you're tired, you're exhausted from the week, name it, whatever the feeling is, and your child needs you. You don't even think twice. You just do what's required of you as a parent. And if you do that, that's where your child learns reliability from. And the reason I bring this up, because I hope you've listened to the prior podcast where I talked about my upbringing. I bring this up because I think about when I was a small child, my father worked a lot, and I realize that's a different kind of sacrifice. And I respect and I appreciate how hard he worked. But now that I'm older, I would have gladly traded not going to fancy private schools, living in a new, larger home, to have more of a relationship with my father. Because when things got hard and I needed him as a father, he was always working. My mom was there to a certain degree, but, she was tough. She was very tough. She was hard to open up to and talk about a lot of emotional things. But my father, even when he was there, you couldn't really open up to him. Like I said, he was the guy who told me when you would cry, if you want something to cry about, I'll give you something to cry about. And so I never, like thinking about it now, I never really had a great model for what reliability really looked like. Like as I just said, my dad was, when I woke up in the morning, he was gone for work. He'd get home around 5:36. We would eat dinner as a family, which was one thing we did do. And he would fall asleep in his chair at 8:30, 9 o'clock latest. So during the weekdays, I would see him maybe 2.5 hours. It's crazy. But this is to kind of tie this up, because we're already at 16 minutes. I hope as we work through this, everyone is seeing how interdependent all of these components are. And one thing I did want to address quickly, because we often hear some confusion about consistency, effort, and reliability. Consistency, to me, is almost like the little brother of reliability. You can consistently be a nice person, but when are you still nice? When shit hits the fan, you're upset, you're pissed off. Are you still a nice person? If you are, then you're reliably a nice person. Because you're a nice person even when it costs you. It's easier in those situations to be mad, to lash out, to be angry. But if you're nice, even in that situation, then I would consider you reliably nice. And I've had some people on social media and so forth asking about the differences and so forth, and where effort fits into this. Effort is what the person doing the behavior feels like. I could feel like I'm putting effort into the relationship by being thoughtful or whatever it might be. Her experience would be experiencing consistency or reliability. So I hope that kind of gives you perspective on all of these and how they fit together and the differences between them. Because we are going to be talking about consistency on the next week's podcast. Hold the standard, stay close.